One of the worst feelings in life is to wait. One of the worst feelings in life is to wait, especially when it comes to waiting on God. You know what I'm talking about? Some of you right now, you may feel like you're waiting on God. You prayed for something and you're wondering, God, what's taking so long? God, are you even listening? Have you forgotten me? Do you not even care? You might be praying for who knows what. Maybe you're praying that God would heal you from migraines. Perhaps you're asking God to bring a loved one to Christ. You might be praying that God would give you a job with real benefits to help you provide for your family. You might ask God to heal you from depression, or to save your hurting marriage, or for God to bring you a spouse. And yet, the more you pray, the less you see. You're probably praying on something, having faith for something, believing for something, and yet you've got no word from God. You've got no sign that He heard you, no sign that He's active, no sign that He cares. All you want is some answer, any answer. Give me a sign, God. Give me a feeling. Give me anything. And yet for some of you, there's nothing at all. What is God doing while we're waiting? Why does God feel so silent? I want to remind you that just because God feels silent doesn't mean He's absent. God is working. While you're waiting, while you're wondering behind the scenes, the goodness of God, the power of God, the provision of God, the grace of God, He's always working. He's always working. He's working in all things to bring about good. He loves you. He's a good Father. He has good plans for you. He wants to bless you. He wants to prosper you. Just because you don't see it happening doesn't mean He's not doing anything. What is God doing while you're waiting? God is always working, even while we're waiting.
We all have things that we're waiting for. A dream to come to pass, problem to turn around, or to meet the right person. When it's taking longer than we thought, it's easy to get discouraged, to become impatient, and think, when is it ever going to happen? But sometimes it's not happening because we're not prepared for what God has prepared. You're ready for what you have in mind, but if you could see what God has in mind, you would realize you couldn't handle it right now. You need more time to grow, to develop, to gain experience. And the scripture says, let patience have its perfect work. Patience is developed in the weight room. You may not see anything changing, but something is happening. Patience is working. Your spiritual muscles are getting stronger. You're growing, developing. Patience is building you, getting you prepared so you can sustain what God has coming. Don't discount the waiting periods. Don't get discouraged because it's not happening as fast as you would like. The longer it takes, that means the more God has in store. When it's your time, when He knows you're ready, what you give birth to is going to be much bigger than you've imagined.
We don't live in a culture today where people are willing to be patient and wait on God to work in His time frame. God has a reason, and when He doesn't move as quickly as you want Him to move, there's a reason why God doesn't move as rapidly as you want Him to move. That waiting on the Lord is a good thing, and keeping that hope and keeping that expectation and looking for God to work it and staying bound and connected to Him, and in other words, not backslide, not sliding into your own way, not taking matters into your own hands, because that's what most people do. When they're waiting and God doesn't move quick enough, they take matters into their own hands, and that makes your situation even worse than it already was. Waiting patiently means that I'm going to have an attitude of hope and expectation. I'm determined to stay connected to the Lord. I'm not going to backslide. I'm not going to get tired of waiting. I'm not going to cuss God out. I'm not going to walk away. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to get weary. I'm not going to get frustrated. I'm just going to sit right here because I'm expecting God to move. I'm expecting God to do something. I'm not going to quit. I'm expecting Him to work it out.
We are like patients in a hospital calling the doctor for advice on how to treat the patient. What do you do as a patient when you call the doctor? You're not telling the doctor what to do. You're waiting on the doctor to tell you what to do.
Most often when we feel like God is doing nothing, y'all, He is crafting chapter after chapter with the story of your life. That He's fully engaged and fully invested in the details of all of our everyday living. He is never not doing nothing.
We never grow spiritually when everything in our life is just the way we want it to be. I mean, you can learn something, but you still don't really know it if it's just in your head and hasn't been worked into your life yet. The only way you ever know what you really believe is to have it put to the test. We can sing about trusting God and we can talk about trusting God, but not one of you really knows whether or not you trust God until something happens that makes absolutely no sense in your life, and you feel like it's very unjust and not right, and you can't get any answers from God, and you don't feel like He's anywhere in the neighborhood, and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. That's when you find out if you really trust God. He wants us to believe Him, to trust Him, to wait on Him with a good attitude. As long as you're believing, God is working. And I'll tell you what we need to be saying more of, and I've been doing this for a good number of years, and it's really, really helpful. When I'm waiting on something, and then I start to think about how long it's been, and my mind starts to go negative, I say out loud, God is working. God is working, and it helps me because He is. When you get a breakthrough, God didn't start just working on that a second before you got it. God's working in your life right now. He's heard your prayers. He's working in your situation. But especially when you've prayed prayers for other people, you have no control over how long it takes them to listen to God. Faith is for when you don't see anything, when it doesn't feel good, when you have questions that you're not getting answers to. And faith is a matter of the heart. Faith can believe that God is working and that something good is going to happen when everything around them looks the exact opposite. I know it doesn't make any sense, but I believe God. I believe God's working. Something good is going to happen to me. This is going to change. And I don't know how long you will have to wait, but I do know that God will come through, and I do know that you can enjoy your wait if you will just improve your attitude.
Now do your part and wait with a good attitude.